Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley at sprinkledwithglitter.com. Thanks for joining me today. Today I am sharing how to create the sweetest little Easter shaker card featuring brand new products from Pretty Pink Posh. These were just released today, and there's some really unique products in this collection that I think you're gonna love. And today we're focusing on this carrot shaker die, which can be used in a couple of ways, and I'll show you both like a regular die cut version as well as a shaker version. Now I'm also going to be using the grass border die along with the Easter greetings stamp set and coordinating die set. And I'll also be using this brand new stencil set. Now this is called the Watercolor Oval Stencil. There's also a rectangle available, and this creates kind of that watercolory effect in the center of your card, or you could position it anywhere you want. But I wanted to point out there's a rectangle version available as well. So I'm going to start out with my die cutting, and I'm taking the solid portion of the carrot shaker die set, and I'm going to die cut that 4 times from plain white cardstock. I'm also taking the detail of the greenery at the top of the carrot, and I'm going to die cut that 2 times from parsley cardstock and 1 time from sprout cardstock. I'm using some greens that I don't always use, but I felt this color combination was perfect for an Easter card. Now, I get a lot of questions about die cutting into the magnetic mat of my Empress die cutting machine. You can definitely do this. You can die cut into both sides of the magnetic mat, but there is definitely one side that is more magnetic-y than the other. So this side that I'm cutting into now, it is the stronger side of the magnet. If I were to flip this over and die cut into the other side, the dies would not be held as securely in place, but I can use the opposite side of this to die cut into. As far as how long does the magnet last, that just really depends on what kind of die cutting you're doing. I find they last for quite a while, and they're not too horribly expensive to replace. Now I'm taking one of those solid carrot shapes and I'm die cutting the detail piece from the center, and that's going to create a frame for my shaker card. I'm going to take the same solid portion and I'm die cutting it twice out of sorbet cardstock and once out of creamsicle cardstock. Now the solid die on this carrot includes the stitching, and I really wanted that on my colored cardstock pieces. So I took those pieces and nestled them right inside the solid die and ran those through my die cut machine again. That just adds that little stitching detail, and I'm going to repeat that process with all 3 of the orange pieces. This is a completely optional step, and you could kind of do this in the opposite way. Die cut the solid piece from orange cardstock and then die cut kind of that detail piece from the center. It's kind of up to you, but I definitely wanted that stitching in there. Now I'm taking the grass border die, and I'm going to die cut this from some parsley cardstock as well as some sprout cardstock. I position this more towards the top of the cardstock because I can trim this down later, and I wanted to make sure that I had plenty of depth on this. And the cool thing about this die is you could really use both sides that this die creates to create a layered look. Now I'm going to start assembling my carrots. I am taking some liquid glue and placing it on the back of the solid inner piece, and then I'll nestle that right onto the outer piece there. You can see it creates a frame. You could do this in a lot of ways. I thought this was really cute with the white outline, but keep in mind, you could die cut that solid layer from any color cardstock and move on from there. You wouldn't even have to use the detail piece. You could just cut it all from orange and put the little greenery piece at the top and call it good. But I loved this little white outline. Now I'm also assembling the greenery at the top of my frame piece, and then this creamsicle piece in the center of this solid piece that will be the backer for my shaker. Now, in order to die cut the acetate for my shaker, I'm going to use this solid carrot piece. And so I have the die blades facing towards the acetate, and I'm going to place a piece of solid white cardstock underneath that. I'll add my metal shim to my die cutting sandwich along with my magnetic shim and my second plastic cutting plate, and I'll run that through, and you'll see that I got a really great die cut for this acetate piece, and now it has the detail portion on that as well. So then I'm going to take that frame piece and flip it over to the back and add some liquid glue around the outer frame of that carrot opening. And I'll place my acetate on the back side of this frame. And this is going to be what holds all of my shaker bits inside of the shaker window. So we definitely need something there to keep them all in place. And I did get a little bit of liquid glue on the front of my window, so I'm just wiping that away with my finger before I adhere this all together. Now for the foam, I'm actually using these thin foam strips from scrapbook.com. And when you peel these off and you remove the backer from them, they are very malleable. So I was able to kind of work them and shape them around that carrot opening so that I didn't have to cut multiple small pieces, and that allowed me a continuous line of foam adhesive that will then block in all of my shaker bits and keep everything tucked securely inside. I also added some foam adhesive towards the top where that greenery piece is, and you can see I added some sparkling clear confetti on the inside of that shaker portion, and now I'm just laying the frame right over the top of the solid backer and adhering that in place, and that will keep all of my shaker bits inside of that adorable carrot shaker window. And we're going to dress this up with some twine and a greeting in just a moment. But before we do that, let's go ahead and adhere our grass border pieces together. I'm creating a layered look, so I'm adding some tape runner adhesive to the back of the parsley, which is the piece that I want to be in the front of my grass border, and I'm offsetting it just a bit with that sprout piece behind it, and then I am going to adhere that down. Then I can kind of trim this down so it's a little bit more manageable because I know I don't need all of this depth, and I can use those other pieces of cardstock for something else. So for the background, I decided to use this watercolor oval stencil, and I'm holding it in place on a piece of white cardstock that measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I will trim that down in just a bit to about 4 inches by 5 1/4, or maybe 3 3/4 by 5. And I'm going to do some ink blending with that stencil in place. Now around the outer edge, I am adding Tide Pool ink, and I'm going to do kind of like a watercolor blended effect. So I'm adding the Tide Pool ink first, and then I'm coming in with some lilac ink, and I'm going to add that in just a few places around the border of the stencil, concentrating all the ink kind of towards the outer edge at this point. And you can see I'm just picking a few areas to add the lilac, and then finally I'm going to bring some ballet slipper into the center so we kind of create this watercolor blending effect. Before I remove the stencil, I'm going to go ahead and wipe it down so I don't get any ink on my fingers, and then I'll remove the stencil, and I have this beautiful oval shape on my card front that will create a gorgeous background for my carrots. I'm going to go ahead and trim my grass border down to the width that I need it. So you can see I'm lining it up here in my trimmer, just kind of getting some of the excess taken off. And then I'm going to work on a stamped sentiment. So I am using the Easter Greetings sentiment stamp set, and I'm going to white heat emboss this onto some vellum. So I have the stamp mounted in my Misty stamping tool, and I have a piece of vellum there in the lower right-hand corner. I'm prepping that with a powder tool, and then I'm inking up my stamp using Versamark ink. This is the ink that I like to use for all of my embossing. Then I'll go ahead and close the door of my Misty right over the top of that vellum and gently press, transferring the ink onto the vellum. Then I can remove the vellum from the Misty stamping tool, add some superfine detail white embossing powder right over the top of that stamped image, and then I'll heat set that. Now, once all of the embossing powder is melted, and you'll know it's melted because it'll be shiny and it won't look grainy anymore, then I'm going to take the coordinating die and I'm going to line that up right over the vellum and run this through my die cut machine, and this will give me a perfectly die cut stamped and embossed greeting. I just love the look of a die cut greeting. I think it's so beautiful. So now that I have all of these elements ready to go, I can start assembling my card. And I'm starting with these 2 darker carrots kind of at an angle over on the left-hand side of my card front. And then I'm going to take my grass border and add that right over the top. So it looks like the carrots are coming right out of that grass border. I did end up kind of moving these around just a little bit. That's the beauty of a liquid adhesive on the back. You can change your mind. And you know, we like to change our mind every now and then. So once I get that positioned, I can flip the card front over and trim off any of the excess that's hanging over the edge of the card base. I like to trim from the back side because I find I get more precise trimming with my scissors. And then I'm going to add a little bit of twine to my shaker carrot. So this is just a natural twine with a little bit of gold kind of weaved in or woven in to the twine, and that will eventually go on my card front there. But before I do that, I decided to make an adorable little tag using the Upright Greetings Easter stamp set, which is also new from Pretty Pink Posh. So I'm stamping that with that same Versamark ink onto a piece of craft cardstock. I did prep that with a powder tool before stamping it. Then I added my white embossing powder and I heat set that, and I'll take it over to my trimmer and trim this into a thin little strip that I can then kind of hang from the upper part of my carrot. I thought this was a cute little addition to this shaker carrot, and I'm placing it kind of at an angle and over to the side so that it doesn't conceal my shaker window too much. I'm just tucking it up underneath the twine using a little bit of liquid glue, and then I will add some liquid glue on the back of my shaker element and place it directly on my card front. And I love that you can take these Pretty Pink Posh shaker dies and either create a shaker window on your card front, or you can create a standalone shaker element like this carrot here. So you can use these in a couple of different ways. Now, to embellish my card a little bit more, I went ahead and stamped the little mini eggs, which are part of the Easter Greetings stamp and coordinating die set. I stamped those onto some colored cardstock and heat embossed them using white embossing powder. And now I'm going to just tuck them into my grass border here and there. I have some creamsicle cardstock, some lilac cardstock, and some blush colored cardstock. I'll add my vellum greeting here with a little bit of foam adhesive, and then I'll add some of that sparkling clear confetti sprinkled in that grass border and kind of around the eggs to give it a little bit of shine and just kind of draw the eye in a little bit more. Then I'll take this entire card front and add it onto a Tide Pool card base using some foam adhesive, and that will finish off this very sweet Easter shaker card featuring some brand new products from Pretty Pink Posh. You should check out this release. It is a lot of fun. I will have links to the products in the YouTube description below, as well as the entire release, and you will be seeing me create with this a little bit more as this release celebration kind of continues. I'll also be doing a special Carissa Crafts live stream broadcast featuring these brand new products. Be sure to follow me on Instagram because I'm going to be taking a poll over there asking you all what products you want me to use in that live stream, and I would love to hear your votes. As always, I want to say thank you so much for stopping by and hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed this project, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications here so you don't miss any of my paper crafting and card making video tutorials, as well as my Carissa Crafts live stream broadcasts. I'm so glad you're here. Let me know in the comments below, what is your favorite product from this brand new release from Pretty Pink Posh, and do you make Easter cards? I would love to hear that as well. Thanks again for watching. I'm so glad you're here, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.